What's going on, running guys? So this is just going to be some stuff for some of you in your programs to kind of use when you're having a day where stuff's not really going on. So one of the other members, one of the other team members, a lot of you know, Ollie, had felt like he was going to have a shit session when he looked at what we had programmed for his Friday session, and we adjusted it because he'd not been able to really train that much that week. He felt like he was in the bin the whole week because of work and because of scheduling. And then when you already feel tired, but you also haven't trained that week, you don't feel like you're in a training rhythm. It almost feels like you're not going to be ready to lift because you haven't lifted regularly that week. So there's going to be a few strategies I'm going to give you for your Olympic lifts that are going to help you have a good session and make sure that you feel like you've done something meaningful. So the first thing is to make sure that you're not getting overly hyped up. Don't get excited about trying to hit any heavy weights. Go in with high standards of moving well, of making sure that technically you're on a level and you're making sure you get your technical points right. Whatever tick boxes we've gone over with you as each of your individual coaches, make sure you're hitting them. So if your whole thing is making sure you keep your back tight, making sure you push your knees back off the floor, making sure you extend and finish the pull as much as you can, whatever it is, just make sure you're focusing on that first. The next thing, and I want to reiterate that point, the first point is going to become the third point, is high expectations, like high standards and no expectations. Don't expect to be hitting a PB today. Don't even worry if 70% is the most you can do. Just go in wanting to move as well as possible and wanting to do it at the best weight that you can. It doesn't necessarily have to be any certain percentage. So that's the first and third thing. The next thing is going to be to drop the reps all the way down. Don't do doubles, don't do triples, just do singles. The reason being is because if you're already feeling mentally fatigued or physically fatigued and you feel a bit rusty, trying to focus and be technically sound over 2 to 3 reps takes mental energy. That's why we do doubles and triples, right? Because you're having to focus on making sure that your technique stays together across a set of 2 to 3 reps, whether you're doing it as a set with straps on where you're almost cycling it, or you're putting it down, resetting and grabbing the bar again. The idea is that as you get more fatigued and the fatigue builds, you're having to focus more and more on keeping that technique as sound as possible, so you stress proof your technique. We don't want to do that today because you're already stressed, you're already feeling like a bit mentally stressed or fatigued or just like very, very deflated, so we want to fix that. The next point is on your snatch and clean and jerk, pick a variation that you like. So you can even go as far as being like, okay, so you enjoy doing, let's say, pause snatches, but you don't necessarily enjoy doing hang snatches. And today you're supposed to have hang snatches. You're not going to do hang, you're going to do pause. Or maybe, let's say, you find deficit snatches to actually be the one that makes your form click and you like the way deficit snatches feel, and you were supposed to do block snatches. You're going to go do deficit snatches. Maybe block snatches treat you the best because you have a history of having a bit of a tight back, especially when you're tired and fatigued. So you're going to go off of block because you know that it helps you to improve your finish, and also it makes you feel more confident about picking the bar with a tight back. Just examples, same as with the clean and jerk, you can even split it into clean and jerk, and you can do power jerk from rack or from block, and you can do clean from floor or from hang, whatever variation it is. Just make sure you pick a variation that you actually really enjoy doing and that you can do well. It doesn't have to be from floor. It doesn't have to be hang, doesn't have to be whatever. Just make sure you pick a variation that you enjoy and do it for singles. The next point would be to take your time warming up with the bar, do plenty of drills, take your time warming up to make sure you're moving well and you feel warm, and then you're going to work up to 50% of your 1 rep max, and you're going to take 2 to 5 kilo jumps upwards. So if you're looking at a snatch 1 rep max of about, let's say, 60 to 70 or below, you're going to take 1 to 2 kilo jumps. If you're at like about 100-ish, you're going to take anywhere from 3 to 5 kilo jumps. If you're into like the 120 and the 130 mark, you're again take 3 to 6 kilo jumps. But every single set you're going to do a single, and you're just going to go up by 3 to 5 kilos, depending on what your max is. It might be more, it might be less. I'm just going to keep on doing that until you hit a set where you think it was actually quite heavy. It felt heavy, but technically it was still good. And you're just basically going to keep up and doing that until either you hit a set where you're like, okay, that's at my technical limit for today, or maybe you even miss one, and then you drop back down, hit a set, and then you're done. And you're going to do the same thing on cleans and the same thing on jerks. The reason you're going to do this is because by going up in those small jumps, the actual stress and the difference of the feeding of the bar between, let's say, 60 and jumping straight to 80 kilos is nowhere near. You're not going to feel that kind of jump up in weight if you go from 60 to 63 to 66 to 69 to 72 and so on and so forth and work up to 80 that way. But if you go 60, 80, you're going to feel the difference to the bar because it's a 20 kilo difference. It's a big jump. So taking the smaller jumps takes a lot less mental energy to deal with as you pick the bar up off the floor, because it's increasing in weight, but it's not really that noticeable from set to set. Like, you're not really going to feel, you're not going to pick the bar up until it gets into that 90% circa max kind of like range and go, oh fuck, that's actually a bit heavier, because you're slowly building up. And because you're doing singles on a movement that you like, that you don't have to focus on as much to get technically correct, you're going to be able to just go through the motions and make sure that you're moving well without too much, too much brain power. So those are the strategies I would employ. If you're coming into a session, you're supposed to go heavy, you're supposed to do doubles or triples, you're supposed to do something to set numbers, and you look at it and you think, there's just no fucking way I'm going to be able to get that done today. This strategy should help you to be able to do that. And you could actually carry it forward onto other stuff like squats, bench and deadlifts and overhead press and accessory work and whatnot. If you're supposed to be going heavy on it, but you know you're not going to be able to, drop the reps all the way down to singles and take very small jumps up from 50% of your max, and then also make sure that you're picking a variation that you really enjoy. So as an example for me, I would choose to go probably from a block above the knee for snatch, block just below the knee for clean and jerk, and I would choose to do singles, and I would literally go on snatches, I would start at 80, and I would probably just build 3 to 4 kilos at a time. Clean and jerk, I'd start at about 100, and I just build 3 to 4 kilos at a time, and I just keep on going up until I get to a set where I think, okay, that's pretty heavy, that's decent, I'm done there for today. And sometimes you can actually end up going surprisingly heavy. Sometimes you will even turn what would be a really bad day into a PB day. But just by doing it this way, you'll conserve mental and physical energy, which you don't have much of, because that's why you feel the way that you do and why you're changing the plan anyway. And then you'll also make sure you get in a lot of technical work, because if you were to work up to 90 kilos, but you went 50, 70, 80, 85, 90, as opposed to going 60, 63, 66, 69, 70. Do you get my point? You're making more jumps where you're getting in more technically perfect reps. So you're doing more reps towards perfecting your technique, you're taking smaller jumps, and you're making sure that the stress of the session mentally is nowhere near as large. So next time you're feeling like you're having a bit of a crap day, this is how you can adjust your session, especially when it's supposed to be like a big Friday or a super Saturday session, to make it so that you can still do the full lifts, you can still actually go surprisingly heavy without having that taxing mental load of having the expectation of numbers to hit and feeling like you're just going to have to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it to try and do it, when actually it's probably hand on heart, a day that's not meant for you to do it on. If you've got any other questions on how to adjust your training or anything else, or any other ideas for IGTV content or members content, just throw it in the box below.